we had a little bet on how many people were here, and I think Candace won this bet. He said 8, that's how many people showed up. Very good.
Well, he paid us all.
And then he locked the door.
He won the bet, he lied there by
I
the
got a bouncer outside.
Is the front door locked? Is that why?
Did I bring my glasses? Oh, I hope so. Yep, I did. I don't know yours.
Hang on one second. This is very informal. I cannot read without them. Are we live, Clint? Okay. Well, first of all, welcome to the Heritage Lake Election Committee Meet the Candidates. And thank you to the candidates who are participating today. We've got Nina on the conference call. She was out of town, came in real early this morning, and she's not feeling great, but she's called in, and so we'll be using her on the conference call. Couple of housekeeping things. First, if you've got a phone, make sure it's turned off so that it doesn't ring during our process. That's okay unless you have a nasty ringing tone, I guess. Also, I want to say that Deb and I are finishing being off the election committee. This is our last year. We are searching for somebody who would like to do this. We will continue to support the election committee. Most of this stuff gets done kind of before January, and then the only thing that's left is validating the ballots and counting the votes in late February. If anyone shows any interest, if you contact the POA board or the office, we'll be glad to have you get involved with us in February so we can kind of show you the procedure. It's pretty simple, but it is a little bit time consuming if you're going to be gone, and we kind of want to have February free to us going forward. So anybody knows anybody who's interested, we'd appreciate it. So,
Blood drive.
do I?
Blood drive.
Oh, we're going to ask Mary Ann to stand up real quick. She wants to solicit your blood. And, go ahead, Mary Ann.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Novak. As you know, Tom and I are hosting another blood drive here at the clubhouse on Tuesday, January the 9th, this coming Tuesday, and we still have a few good slots open. So if you are interested, if you're here today, I have already signed up a couple people. If anybody else wants to, I'll be here afterwards. Otherwise, please give me a call at 765-386-2077, or you could go right on the blood site, redcrossblood.org. So thank you, we really need it, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, a little bit of the procedures that we're going to be doing here. First of all the questions that we prepared have been given to the candidates beforehand. It's my belief I'd rather them have a chance to see what we're going to ask so they can be prepared. We'll go through the questions kind of timely as we can. If we have some time at the end. If any of you have a question that you would like to ask at the end, I would ask you to stand up and ask your question. Don't make it a commentary, just make it a comment to whoever you want to ask the question to. We're going to start out by, Deb's going to pull out a name of the candidates, and then from that point on, we'll go in alphabetical order. Each person will draw a number out of here. We've got 30 questions on our list. That question will be asked to whoever's the next person, and during the process, if somebody wants to answer the question in addition to the person who was originally asked, they can raise their hand and we'll let them answer it as well. Any questions from anybody? Okay, ready to start? Pull a name, please.
Who's gonna start us out? Linda, you get the first question.
And from there, we'll go in alphabetical order.
So we're coming this way.
Last name. You want to pull a number?
Oh, am I doing that?
Yeah, you're doing that.
Number 9 or 6?
That's 6. We'll call it 6. Okay. A community of our size is diverse, and opinions on how it should be directed are many. Can't hear me?
Yeah, it's a little quiet.
Okay. What are your general thoughts on the well-being of our lake community And what do you think we can collectively do to improve upon it? You know what, let's back up. Time out. Opening statements first. Forgot about that. So, Linda, you want to have an opening statement? Why don't you start?
Hello, thank you for this opportunity today. My name is Linda McFerrin. I've lived at Heritage Lake since 2010. I've lived in 4 different areas actually, Gettysburg, Lincoln Hills, Jefferson Valley, and I know I've lived in one more. I've lived in 4 different homes. We bought our home in 2017 in Jefferson Valley. We're very blessed to have wonderful neighbors, and we're also lucky to be close to the clubhouse and the beaches. My career background as a production manager, I currently work for Boston Scientific in Spencer, Indiana. We save 8 lives every minute, so that's rewarding, being part of that team. I also give my time to the 7th and 8th grade middle school at North Putt. I coach basketball, boys, and I do track for the middle school, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which is, sometimes it's like herding cats, but it's fun. At the lake here this year, I helped with the casting at the Heritage Lake Feast and Ski, which was rewarding to see all the little kids who have never cast. My grandson was one of them. He had never cast a pole before, and just to watch them learn how to cast was actually a good time. So it makes me want to do more for the children's side of the community. We also donated a lot of time, Carla and I did, to the campground. Last year was our first year at the campground, and we donated some time cleaning up the outside structures, power washed the buildings, and primed them, made it appealing. Our philosophy is what you look like on the outside represents what you are on the inside. I do have a bachelor's degree in business management. I went to Indiana Wesleyan in 2004. I graduated within 4 years. I was a single mom at the time and working 60 hours a week, so I was pretty proud of myself to be able to accomplish all those. And that's about it for me as far as my personal life.
All right, thank you. AJ?
I'm AJ Stafford. I've been on the board for 6 years. So you guys have probably seen me around on a couple of videos. I usually sit in the corner and I'm all in orange, so I decided to change today and not wear my normal orange. So, I also have a master's degree from IU, PUI. I do a lot of work with the POA. We volunteer. We I own a landscaping company here around the lake. I've only lived in 2 parts of the lake, Jefferson Valley and Mill Springs. So
Mill Springs was the other one.
So I've been on the lake committee, the siltation committee. I'm the liaison for the siltation committee, and I've been on the board for 6 years. Worked on a number of projects at the lake, new playground equipment, the new marina docks, getting the marina built, and just a bunch of other different things. So I've really enjoyed doing it. I like to be part of the action, just kind of keep my pulse on what's going on and how I can help the community. We also sponsor the concert series, and we're one of the dock sponsors down at the marina as well. So we try to give back to the community because we really like it here, and we live out here full time, and it's great.
Okay, you want to pound on Nina? Nina, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I am Nina Stebbins. I live in Lincoln Hills. I've lived in Lincoln Hills full-time since 2016, live out here full-time with my husband, Michael Weisman. And I have been on the board already for 3 years, ready to be reelected. Since moving here in 2016, I made myself an integral part of the community. I've worked in government service since the age of 18 when I enlisted in the Navy. I still work as a government civilian, and while doing my military and my full-time job, I've always been part of various nonprofit agencies. That moved me later in my life to complete my degree in nonprofit management from IU. And currently I am on the board of directors for Heritage Lake, but also I'm the current secretary, congressional district representative for the Indiana War Memorial Commission. And having balanced all of that, I feel like I've got a strong understanding of how to balance my work and family life as well as the needs of our community.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yes, my name's Andrew Crosley. I was actually born and raised here at the lake, so I mean, technically I lived here from 1987 until 2006 when I graduated at good old North Putnam. Went to Purdue and studied nursing, graduated from there in 2010, so I have been a registered nurse for about 13 years, working between IU for most of it, and then I just joined Hendricks a couple years ago. Feel like growing up here and then moving back in 2018 kind of gives me a broad perspective of how it used to be and kind of how it's changed over the years. So I mainly am running this because we moved back here, my wife and I, when we had our first child. I think that was around 2017. Then we moved back here 2018 because it was a great place to grow up, and I'd like to keep it like that for my boys and all the other kids out here. I mainly serve the community here on the cleanup committee. So if you've ever been there, we do the clean sweep. So usually they're unloading the dumpsters with Tom. So appreciate all the help there. And like I said, I'm mainly just looking to serve the community in other fashions, and this seems like a good way.
Okay. All right, now we'll go to the normal procedure. Linda, let me read this question again to you. It was number 6. What are your general thoughts on the well-being of our lake community, and what do you think we can collectively do to improve upon it?
I think the well-being of our community is to take care of our community. I've heard a lot of positive and negatives, but I think going forward, if we just enforce our rules that we have, for example, clean yards, and do it biannually to make it a better opportunity for everyone to do what we're supposed to do. It starts with us. It starts with the POA members, and we have to have more pride in ourselves and our community to be able to make our community.
Okay. You want to draw one for AJ? Anybody want to rebut? No.
Number 27.
27, AJ.
All right.
They get harder as they get higher.
That's what I figured. All mine will be like 25 and up, right?
That's
That's
right.
right, and just for you.
Every year when the office sends out the annual assessment notice, they include lines for extra donations to the fireworks, scholarship fund, and siltation. This year, they also included the paving of the parking lots. Question is, what are your thoughts on this form of fundraising, and are there other items that should be included? If the office does not use this solicitation, what other ways can the board raise funds?
Well, this is going to be a fun one, isn't it? You gave me a money one right up front. Great. Okay,
The
so
treasurer.
that's true. I was a treasurer. So my thoughts on fundraising. There's kind of twofold, honestly. I mean, when we built the marina, we raised the boat and the camper fees and things like that to help fund the marina, and we were able to repay all of that through that. And then this year, we'll be bringing the fees back down like we promised. So we could do some sort of special assessment if needed on certain things. There are also a lot of really generous people that live out here that want to have a nice community, kind of like what Linda was saying. And there are lots of people that donate. I mean, the fireworks, there's a lot of donations for those, the scholarship funds, all those different things that you just named. So I think we should ask the community for different things, because there's a lot of people that utilize a lot of services and there's a lot of people that don't. So there's maybe people that are more interested in the community, and maybe there's other people that are less interested. Maybe they just want to use the lake and they're not that worried about it. And then there's other people that are living here and spending their time here, and they want to spend their money here because they want it to be a wonderful place to live and grow a family. So if the office doesn't use that kind of solicitation, the other ways, like I said, raising board fee, or raising different kinds of fees like boat fees, things like that. Unfortunately, we can't do any sort of widespread assessment changes or anything like that at this time. So There may just have to be waiting as well. We can also look into, I know Nina has actually looked into some of the government grants. Cause we have Nina, what's that called? Is that the 503 or 403?
The 501.
501, there was a number, I remembered. But, we were looking into some nonprofit some grant money that we could get for different things. So we've kind of been tapping all different kinds of angles for that. So there's a lot of ways to raise money, but, sometimes the best way is just to ask.
Okay. Nina, can you hear me?
I can, Jim.
Why don't you, if you would, just elaborate a little bit on that 501 to explain to the people here what that means?
So basically, that's just an IRS classification designating that an agency is a nonprofit, which means they are guided by specific IRS principles. And it's something that certainly benefits the community. It affects our tax liability and also the tax liability of donors within the community.
Okay, thanks. That doesn't mean you get out of your question. I just wanted to clarify that. Uh-oh, 26. Let's see. The board and lake management has embarked on a restoration of the activity center. Do you agree with this expenditure? What other improvements would you like to see the board work toward?
Well, my husband and I actually got married in the activity center back in 2016. And so that building especially has a place in my heart, if you will. And I also think it's, up to this point, it's been very underutilized as far as the community is concerned. And part of the reason why it's been underutilized is the building just really needed some serious renovations, revamping to make it more user-friendly, more aesthetically pleasing, and frankly, just more stable. So I support the endeavor that Ken and the maintenance crew have begun with the restoration of the activity center. Again, it's got a phenomenal view. It's such a great location. As far as other improvements, I'd like to see the board work toward, the Lincoln Hills parking lot is really, really in poor shape. We've added additional boat docking there this year. And, those community members that live off the water, that rent those boat spaces, deserve a better parking lot, something that's more easily traversed in order to, get to their boat, park their vehicles.
Okay, thanks. Number for Andrew, please.
Less than 20, please.
I'll try to do that. Oh, shoot.
30.
Stuck together,
Stuck
20.
together. 20.
Both of them go,
Okay, a while back, the board authorized the filming of the ops and general meetings, and these meetings are available on YouTube. They also encourage owners to attend their meetings. This ensures that everyone who wants to can see our board in action. There are those who say this is not enough. Are you comfortable with this arrangement, and what more do you think the board can do to be transparent?
I think transparency is absolutely key since we are neighbors at the end of the day. And the property owners here do have a right to know what's being discussed. But if we were posting everything on YouTube, the meeting every month, you're welcome to join and attend. So is it more the ops meeting that people are feeling needs to be more transparent? Because I guess I don't fully understand why it isn't transparent enough about the current arrangement if it's being broadcast on YouTube and people are welcome to attend. I suppose if people are still upset about that, they could come to the meeting and address it then, and I would be more than willing to listen and see what we can do to make sure their opinion is heard and, listened to, I guess, but.
Another one for Linda? Some of these questions definitely have short answers, and some have longer ones, so.
Sorry, Linda, it's 34.
34. There is no 34.
There it is.
Well, okay, there is no 34.
So there's
Special
no
question on
Yeah,
the list.
well,
You get off.
Trick.
Just cut out the whole page.
Yeah, probably.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Ah,
There's no 40.
Probably. There are always many issues that affect our lake community. If you were to prioritize the top 3 issues you would like to address in your first year as a board member, what would they be and how would you go about it?
I think one of our pressing issues is how to get the community more involved. As we can see today, we have new candidates running for the board, and we have 11 now. How do we get more people to put their voice out there? I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, and sometimes I think it's like the YouTube. I love the YouTube video because I coach basketball, and I'm not able to make it to the meetings sometimes. So like Monday night I have a game, I'm able to watch it. Maybe some of the elderly don't understand how to use YouTube. I know my mom doesn't. So maybe we could do a session and help them understand to get more involved. And that goes for me. Sometimes I struggle with computers myself, and some extra knowledge to teach to people. But I think one of our biggest issues is participation. And I also think that, and this is not maybe necessarily my answers versus our structures or building things. This is just about my answers about the community. Is we need something for the younger generation too, the 18 and 19-year-olds that are going to be sitting here one day in our places, and how to educate them to understand, hey, what do we need you to do to be able to run the POA one day? As we've heard over and over, the generation, there's so much gaps, but we need to try to bring them together. And then the third one would be doing more like surveys with the community, and maybe doing it back like they used to, walk the house to house. And do you understand these surveys? Do you understand what we're asking as the board or as the PUA? Some people can't make it to the meetings. Some people still don't have internet, and like it goes back to the YouTube. I think in general, check that neighbor, help them. So I think that's 3 of our main pressing issues, is just the community itself, getting them involved more.
How would you go about training the people on the YouTube? I think it's a great idea.
Well, personally, I would probably have to get our video tech back there to give us a training session, or get my grandkids, because they love YouTube. But going, hey, do you have a tablet? Do you have a computer? I think you can even do it on your TV now, and show them how to access the website. So if you can't make it to the meetings, here we have this. And then I think more than just the POA meetings, board meetings could be on YouTube. I think we could have a lot more accessible to the community, more meetings.
Thank you. Draw that number, please. Hopefully we have it in there.
What's the last number?
30.
Okay, 25.
25. See, this is for AJ.
Yeah.
The board authorized the pavement of the clubhouse parking lot this fall and is planning on having the marina parking lot paved in 2024. Do you agree with these expenditures, and are there other projects you would like to see the board approve?
Okay. Oh, I just kicked the thing under the table. Oh, God, mortally wounded. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Yes, I agree with the expenditures on the parking lots because they were falling into pretty bad disrepair. The marina parking lot is definitely one of them. It would also be nice to get rid of the gravel part of that parking lot and turn it into pavement as well. So we could actually have parking spaces that are striped and everything like that. I think that a lot of projects at the lake take time to get there, and there's a lot of things working in the background to get us to that point. I know sometimes people hear us pave the clubhouse parking lot and they think like a month ago we just called somebody up and said, hey, let's come pave the parking lot. We've been working on this for months. So a lot of these things take a lot of time. So we've thought about it, we've asked the community, we've talked about it in videos, we've talked about it to our neighbors. So yeah, I mean, this is something we've been working towards. I mean, that's why when we put the boat docks in at the marina at Psalms, all the businesses that donated that money is going into a fund to help pay for the marina parking lot, or at least pay back some of it, and other things that are needed around the community. Other improvements or other projects. We've already done a lot to do the pickleball court. I know that was a big item on getting that resurfaced. I know that was a big one that we kind of took care of. I don't want to say there's a lot of things, but there's not a lot of things because Ken does a really great job of staying on top of the maintenance. So we don't have just really rough buildings. We don't have things just falling apart terribly. I think it's just continuing those maintenance items. I think it's continuing to update things as they need to be updated. You know, just a couple other things, like we built the expansion, or I say we, Ken and his guys built the expansion on the marina docks. Doing that in-house saved the community thousands of dollars. Having Ken and his maintenance guys take care of redoing the activity center, I mean, tens of thousands of dollars we saved by doing it ourselves as Heritage Lake. So I think the best thing we can do is support him and the maintenance staff, and if they need equipment, if they need help and services, you know, we need to put, you know, money into that. I mean, they rake those beaches with that Sandman thing. When that thing finally decides to go, we'll have to replace it, but, and just supporting the people that are taking care of the community, because I think that I don't think there's any one project that's more important than the other ones. I just think that we need to support the people that are doing the work.
Okay. Draw number for Nina.
Nina, you get 16.
Nina, when the board approved and built the new marina, the financing included an increase in boat fees to pay the loan. It was granted that the Powercraft fees would increase for 4 years, and then the board would reduce the fee for 2024. If you're elected to the board, will you support reducing the fee back to its original $250? Do you have any thoughts on what else the board can do to maintain financial stability?
So, absolutely, from day one of the last 3 years on the board and the last year as the secretary, I have always endorsed reducing those fees back to the original $250, mainly because that is what was promised to the community. And due to the inability of the board to legally change the assessments of any great measure, those fees were kind of the only option that the board had at the time to replace the marina, which needed to be replaced. As far as thoughts on what else we as the board can do to maintain financial stability, Psalms has really helped bring us out of that deficit. It's no secret that the fees and assessments that we have been collecting the last 10, 15, 20 years are never enough to cover our yearly expenditures. And the leasing agreement that we have with Psalms is that $60,000 to $70,000 a year that's coming in is definitely helping to offset what was our debt in the past. We're able to refill or bring our savings levels back up to a viability, which we have proven these last 3 years. And so, absolutely, I agree with dropping the fees back. And as far as what else the board can do to maintain financial stability, the best thing is we need to keep a very close pulse on where the financial trends are heading as far as construction costs of gasoline, and make sure that we're doing whatever we need to do to generate the funds needed to cover those expenditures.
Okay, thanks. And the number is?
10.
Number 10, with the growth of our community, it is important that our board of directors possess the knowledge and experience to direct our operation properly. You want to be elected to the board of directors. Name 3 reasons why you think you are qualified to represent the property owners of Heritage Lake.
Well, I know, just pulling from my professional experience, I usually, at the various levels of my nursing career, sat on different committees for my units. We have professional practice steering committees, and I've sat on those that kind of help guide our unit practices. Also, like I've said before, I have kind of both an old and a new perspective, so I can respect people that have been here. I don't know if there's anybody left from day one, but there might be, so I can kind of understand where they're coming from, but then also understand the newer people that are just recently moved in. They don't quite remember the lake, how it used to be years ago. And then I actually wrote this down, but I can't read my handwriting. So, yeah, I guess the third is just, I kind of have the open door approach. I believe our name and numbers are in the phone book, so you can pick up from the POA. So, anytime anybody has an issue, they're welcome to call, knock on my door. I live right off the drive, so I just try to be approachable.
Okay, everybody's had a question. Anybody thought of a question out here in the field? Speak now. Kent?
Do any of you have an opinion as to the amazing growth that we've had here in the lake as far as the infrastructure and the continued, it just, in certain areas of the lake, there just seems to be a housing boom. And can we as the POA support those entities to the level that we are expecting that you all want for this community? Can we provide the infrastructure? At some point, do we need to consider our own security? Do we need to consider, instead of a volunteer fire department, maybe trying to go into a scenario where we get taxed and provide these services internally? Is that something that you all have considered or looked at? Because it just grows and grows and grows. And one of the things that is growing is the amount of boat registrations. When we lower this fee, we will see the families that decided to only register 2 boats or 1 boat, that they may be registering 2 or 3 boats. And that will have a number of, 1,500 boats registered instead of 1,000, or 1,700 instead of 1,200. That growth needs to have some type of accountability, and how would you suggest we go about that?
Who wants to take that?
I know they're expanding the sewage treatment plant, but I sure concerned about the water table. I've heard some of my neighbors complain about if their neighbors are out watering the garden, they can't take a shower because they don't have any water pressure. So, that is something that really needs to be addressed as far as how we could address it. If I get on the board, I plan to read through all the bylaws and everything, but I don't know. I'm not a geological expert, so I don't know if we would have to look at getting water from an outside source. I certainly hope not.
AJ?
I know that we have the government committee, and I know that Rick goes to all those meetings by his lonesome. And he brings back a wealth of information about how we're tied in with Putnam County and all the different commissioners' meetings and all the different resources that we have available to us as we grow and change. I think one of the things that we probably could do is just continue to dig deeper into Putnam County. What services maybe could we provide? What could they bring, city water from somewhere to here? I don't know where it comes from, but same deal, not a geological expert. But if there is a way to do city water in the way they've done, the Clear Creek sewer, things like that. And I think that the same deal applies that I was talking about before with Ken's maintenance team, is just listening to people, supporting the people that are supporting us, maybe talking to the county sheriff and saying, hey, we really need other dedicated people out here if we're worried about security. I think we've done a great job with lake security as far as Ken staffing the boat and getting people out there. No, is every violation gonna be caught? Absolutely not. But also, I think another important thing is community involvement. If you're self-policing, if you're looking at your neighbor's house, if you're taking care of your property, if you notice your neighbor, maybe is older and can't take care of their sticks in their yard or shovel their snow as we have today, just go out there and help somebody else. So I don't have a specific, one shot fits all, but one size fits all. But I think it's just if everybody can continue to help other people and just keep an eye on other people's properties when they're not there, because do have the weekenders, as we call them affectionately. Just making sure you're watching your neighbor's property, and hopefully they'll be watching yours, and work together.
I think the water issue is probably something we're gonna have to address at some point. I've been told by, I think, Rick Miller, if I remember right, that we could do some testing out here, so it might be something we need to do to see where we are, because how much water is under the ground, we don't know. You got anything else, Linda, or you wanna move on?
I talked about the lake with all the boats. That is a big concern, and I do think that Ken and team has really helped this past year. I think a couple years ago, I think during COVID, there was 2,000 boats registered for the lake. For our lake, that's a lot. So stepping up the security was a big plus for our community. And then maybe going forward, we may have to add more security.
Okay. Want to draw a number for Linda? We'll go back to this. Anybody else thinks of questions, let me know. I'll come back to you in a minute, okay? Go ahead.
18.
Let's do this one, then we'll. Let's see here. 18. As a board member, you will be required to be the liaison between the board and at least one of the sanctioned committees. This is an especially important added responsibility of a board member. Are you willing to actively support a committee by regularly attending meetings and participating in the activities of the committee? Which committees would be your preference and why?
I would support a committee. Actually, I would support a couple if I plan on retiring coaching here in the next year, so I'd have more time to give back to the community. Committees, I'm not sure which one I would join yet. I know probably one would be the campground, and I would just have to study and look and see what's that need and what's best fit for me.
Okay.
Obviously, we're going to need some election committee associates coming
There you
forward,
go.
so it's a possibility as well. But I'm more guilty of not getting more involved in our community, whereas I put more time to the children of North Putt, which a lot of those children are Heritage Lake children. So I feel like it's a win-win, because if we're teaching at the school, we're also bringing back here. And even at the campground, one of our 8th grade basketball boys, I remembered seeing him this summer playing basketball with him, and I'm like, do I know you? And he's like, yeah, we met at the campground and you beat me at basketball. And I said, okay, we'll play next year then. But I think, just getting involved in anything is kid-related. Because I think some need that extra adult figure in their life. So I'd like to see a community like that.
Okay, good. I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
I'm Steve Forsgren, 117 Lincoln Hills. And this question or issue has nowhere near the importance of water in our community, but it's an issue that's kind of, it rattles some people, and that's the issue of storage sheds. I know we can't have any people, some people have or a small garage, or it's crowded, or whatever, a place to put the lawnmower, rakes, all that equipment. What's the general feeling of the candidates about, is this an issue that maybe needs to be addressed, or is it keep the strict prohibition, or you like things the way they are, or is there a way to move forward on this?
Well, let me just answer part of your question first.
Sure.
Unless we change the covenants, we can't have storage sheds.
Right.
So that's a process that they keep working on.
Okay.
And if at some point we ever change the covenants and people can vote on them,
then we can have them. At this point, we can't have them. But you can go ahead and answer how you feel about it.
That was my understanding is, I'm sure we'd like sheds as much as you, but we can't change the covenant, so, or not currently empowered to, is that correct?
Yes.
My understanding?
We have not been able to. The 6 years I've been on, I think we've had 2 rounds of trying to change it, and we've went door to door, and we've given away, as Paul pointed out in the last meeting, we've given away money, like free gift cards for people to vote, and we still are not able to get to the threshold of voting of 2/3 of all the lot owners. So we have, as you guys will be getting in your assessment, we've put out a complaint to Putnam County, or to the court system for all of that, and it's very lengthy, and you guys can go back and watch the YouTube video on it. I'm not gonna spend the whole meeting on that. But we are trying to develop a way so that we can vote in a reasonable fashion, so that you guys have the ability to tell us what you want and how you want us to govern. So the 9 of us that sit up here are not just doing our best to take into account what we think from ourselves and our neighbors. We will actually have a physical vote that will tell us what you guys want. So that's a nice hot button question. It's a good one. I love talking about sheds. Personally, I think if there were guidelines and things were all put into place with the A&E committee about them, so you could only have certain models or certain ways they looked and things like that and certain placements, I would definitely support that. As long as it's done in a way, it's not just go to Lowe's and buy some plastic thing and just throw it in your backyard. You know, there would have to be some A&E guidelines, I think, to make sure that it doesn't look like we're just letting anything happen. But I would definitely support talking about it and coming up with a plan. But yes, I mean, for all the time I've been around this lake, this has been a question. But we just have never been able to get that 1,991 yes votes that we need to do that.
Any additional comments?
Yeah, I think if we could.
I would like to clarify.
Jump
Can
in.
you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I would like to this is Nina. I would like to clarify, just to explain that the board of directors, due to the articles of incorporation in our bylaws, we do not have the ability to change the covenant. Only the community can change the covenant. So I want to clarify that, because when AJ was saying it's something we could do, he meant the community as an individual vote, as a whole voting body, not the board of directors. That's not something the board of directors will ever be able to do. And so it may be a hot button topic, but unfortunately the board's hands have been tied because of the required voting structure and the fact that historically the community just has not come out to vote one way or the other.
Okay, just a clarification too. He used the word complaint that's been filed with the courts. It's an odd term. It's just basically the form they're using to give to the courts to push this issue. Why the courts call it a complaint, I'm not sure, but.
I'm also not a lawyer, I'm a landscaper. They both start with L's, but very different daily routines, so I apologize, yes, but I have also heard the word complaint a lot since we've been going over this, so thanks for clarifying.
Okay, who's next? I forgot.
Me.
AJ,
AJ?
29.
Golly.
I swear it's.
25 and up, bring it on, let's go.
That's kind of,
More raising funds.
let's
Here
draw
we
this
go.
number.
Draw another one?
We've discussed this.
Thank you.
Some of them are redundant.
How about 13?
Ooh. Felt bad for me, did you, Deb?
Okay.
13, lucky 13.
There's always been some disagreement about the cost of the yearly maintenance assessment and board-approved fees to maintain our community. Keeping in mind the annual maintenance assessment cannot be changed without a covenants adjustment, what are your personal views on the current fee structure? How might you change it while maintaining our ability to meet our financial obligations? It's another money question.
I just say this is great for the treasurer to be answering these.
Yes, yep. Okay. So, that's correct, that we cannot change the annual assessment currently because the covenant based that off the KPI, which is a government index. That's why it goes up and down a little bit every year. We do not make those changes. That's driven by a government index, consumer price index. So we don't make those changes as far as the board does not vote a $20 increase or a $20 decrease. That just happens every year through the office. I think that in the coming years, we're going to have major expenses over time that things will need to be, I don't have this formulated the way I want to say it, but basically we're going to have a lot of expensive stuff coming up here in the next 5 or 10 years that we're going to have to figure out a way to pay for. And kind of going back to the first thing, how we talked about donations and how we talked about different fees. If there isn't a way to change the assessment that can spread the load across everybody, then we're going to have to keep working with fees and donations and then slowing down the progress of the community. I am not in favor of just raising everyone's assessment, and doing all that, because I just don't think that a blanket statement like that will be heard very well to the community. I agree that over the next 5 or 10 years, though, we're going to have a lot of expensive things that need repaired, replaced, and we're going to have to figure out a way to pay for that, whether or not it's through grants, whether or not that's through assessments or different fees and things like that, or donations. What might I change in maintaining our ability to meet those financial goals? All of those different things, all the things I've just mentioned. We're just talking about the same 3 or 4 different things. It's just it's a challenge going forward to be able to fund a community that is growing this rapidly with what we have in place. So that's one of the reasons why we've tried to change the voting structure, so we can make changes, so we'd have some sort of ability, and the we is the community, so that we all can vote, because we all live here. I mean, we're all in this together. We all have to work together. So, kind of going back to the rest of this is that it's just we need to continue to just be supportive and just look at every possible option that we can find.
Okay. Nina?
I'm here.
Okay. Number 3, the community's grown exponentially in the last few years. Planning is essential. What's your vision of Heritage Lake 5 years from now, and how will you help to make that vision a reality?
This is a really good question coming off of the one that AJ just had, which was a little more difficult than mine. Sorry, man. But as far as the vision, I think one thing that we need to realize is, having been the director of the Indiana War Memorial, I was crippled by what was called deferred maintenance. The state did not fund the proper current preventive maintenance for the buildings for many years. And that can cripple community and the infrastructure within this community. And, you put the preventative maintenance off and you don't do it, and you say, we'll do it next year, and then the next year it's not in the budget, so it gets put off again. And that's really dangerous, especially for a community like ours, where we are spread out. We have different buildings in different areas. And so as far as my vision of Heritage Lake 5 years from now, I want us to continue to do the correct maintenance, the preventive maintenance, the active maintenance, all the corrective maintenance, to make sure that this community and all of our assets are still here 5 years from now. We don't have a pool that's leaking, or an activity center that's fallen into the lake, or a marina that can't sell gas, or something to that effect. And as far as helping to make that vision a reality, it kind of goes back to keeping our fingers on the pulse of where are the expenditures going to come from? What kind of capital projects will we be looking at? The big projects that AJ alluded to would normally be like a capital project. That's something that you look at a year, 2 years in advance and begin to budget for. And so really it takes the entire community to stay keyed in. And, you know, the community members can come to the ops meeting, which is where we organize the agenda. And one of the reasons why that's not televised is it's just an organizational meeting where we're outlining and agreeing what will be on the agenda for the next meeting. But then the big board of directors meeting, they can come to it in person. They can watch it live. They can watch it. Before I was on the board, I would listen to it the next day. Sometimes even now being on the board, I don't catch everything that goes on. So I play it in the background the next day when I'm making dinner. And then for the people that aren't connected electronically, they have the printed highlights. And I think Linda brought up earlier that, you know, we need to reach those in our community that aren't using the internet and can't go to the HLCS website or the YouTube website. And that's where we as neighbors need to get out to those blue dispensers, grab those printed copies of the highlights and take it to our neighbors that we know are, you know, in their house or shut in or, you know, just not very mobile right now, and make sure that they have that printed copy of what's going on in the community. But as far as achieving our vision of this community being better than it is today, 5 years from now, it's going to take all of us, and all of us are just going to have to keep a very tight pulse and continue to improve our engagement and activities within the community.
Okay, thanks, Nina. Any other questions? Do another break here. Yes, sir.
Josh Bauer, Patriots Landing 28. My wife and I just moved out here in April, and so we're not really familiar at all with how things work around here. And one of the first, I guess you'd say, hush-hush things we heard when we moved out here was the animosity between people that live on the lake and everyone else. In the context of one conversation, it was brought up about the waiting list for boat slips. Do you believe that there is that animosity? And if so, do you have any ideas on how to address it? And if not, why not?
That was one of my questions. No, I'm only kidding. Go ahead. Anybody want to address that?
I think the boat slip list has been a topic for quite some time. I've heard the community say they'd like to see it published. But I also think adding more slips in this past year has helped. I don't know whether there's so much as animosity as what people might say there is. I've lived off the water as well. I'm fortunate to live on the water right now, but I lived on, my other two homes I lived here was off the water. It's just part of where I chose to live. Put my boat in the water every day and take it out. I mean, I knew coming in that the probability of having a boat slip was none. At the time, there was hardly any. We built Lincoln Hills up. There may be some more small areas, but then do you want your lake filled with boat docks? Or, you know, because you got to have places for the kayakers to go to feel comfortable, or the people want a canoe or the paddle boards. I do think it's a topic of issue, but I don't think it's made out to what it should be.
And I think it's just kind of society in general, you know, you have the haves, the have-nots, so to speak, and then it gets conflated probably online and blown out of proportion. But just speaking from my own personal experience, I interact with people on the lake, off the lake, and I mean, we're all neighbors, and I've never been treated or talked to down because, oh, you live off the water, you know? Like, I don't know, I'm a nurse, not a doctor, so I can't really afford a waterfront, but I've never been treated poorly because of that. So I guess I just haven't seen that interaction. That, I don't know, maybe that's just me being naive though.
I know a lot of times on Facebook, there's a lot of opinions getting thrown around, but a lot of times it's the same 10 or 12 or 15 people voicing that opinion. I work out here every day. This is, you know, I live out here, I work out here. I've lived off the water, I now live on the water. And Andrew and I are friends. I let him come over and everything. It's not a big deal. His kids come over, it's great. My daughter and his boys are good friends. And I think that just the boat slips have been a challenge because there's only so many places to put them. You don't want to just shove them on every open space because then it'll just look like a marina everywhere you look. And you'll lose some of that, kind of going back to what Andrew was talking about, you know, back in the day, that, you know, nice, intrinsically beautiful lake. You don't want to just be covered in docks. I have rented a boat slip when I lived off the water. It was fantastic. Instead of having to launch your boat all the time, so I can totally understand why people are frustrated when they have to wait a year or two. Or more possibly. I'm not exactly sure how long the list is. But, you know, that's another, you know, because I've been asked all the fun money questions. You know, that's another way to generate revenue. I mean, we could, you know, change the fees on those as well. And if people wanted slips more, you know, maybe there's a way to generate some revenue and be able to raise some money to then build some more boat docks in other places. Even if it's only 4 or 5 extra spots, you know, that's 4 or 5 extra people we can help. So yeah, it's I've lived off and had a slip, and I've lived on now with my own dock, which is awesome. But I really don't feel like there's people that are like, oh, you're a waterfront person, or oh, you're an off-water person. I don't think I've really ever run into that personally when I've been out working out here in the community. So, Nina, you want to chime in?
I have to agree with AJ. Yep, I have to agree with what AJ said, and maybe this is my own myopic view, but you know, I am also in a very small home on the waterfront and in a tight cove, so you know, not really waterfront for all intents and purposes. But you know, we've got friends, very good friends, and I meet new people every week at this community that live on the water or live off the water. And if you look at the diversity of our board, I mean, I hate to define our board by who lives on the water and who doesn't. We have a really good mix of on and off. And so I don't believe that there is widespread animosity between the on-water and the off-water. Again, as AJ alluded to, I think it's a very, very vocal minority that for whatever reason, they have seen that as evident in their experience, and they're just kind of making it bigger, making it appear as though it affects more people than it does. And if I'm wrong, I absolutely welcome feedback from the community. And again, like I said, it may be my myopic view. You know, I try to socialize throughout the community. And I look at the engagement of our committee members and our community members and the people that are doing the most work in this community, and it's spread across being off the water and on the water. So we are all working together very fluidly to make this community what it is.
Okay. Any others for now? Go ahead, Jim.
Jefferson Valley 110. Do you think Heritage Lake's going to be turning into a town?
Into a town?
Turning into a town or a
Incorporated?
Corporation, because I think we're bigger than Greencastle right now. I know you'd have to do a lot of restructuring, but I've heard talk that people want this to be a town now.
I mean, I know that's been brought up in a board meeting at one point or another, but I think there's a lot of things to consider before you do that, because that's, if we think the covenants vote was a challenge to get done, I can only imagine trying to turn Heritage Lake into an actual town with selectmen or a mayor or whatever you want to call it, you know, that turning a private community into a public community town, whatever. I'm not for it or against it. I'm very neutral because I don't know anything about it, and I have no idea what challenges it'll bring and what good things it'll bring. But I'm gonna be Switzerland on this because I have no idea the good or the bad or the ramifications of doing that. So I don't have much education in that part of it.
Okay. Want to draw?
I'm kind of in the same place as far as that's concerned. I feel like that would be such a huge logistical and bureaucratic effort, if you will. And I don't know who in the community would be able to lead that effort and do the research and contact the local governments and see what the requirements are and how it would affect us negatively and how it would affect us positively. Personally, in my 3 years on the board, I've never heard it besides being casually mentioned in passing, like, oh, what if this? I have never heard anything solid. I've never seen any plans. I've never heard anyone going to Putnam County to find out what would need to be done. And so I don't know that it is such a priority by the people in the community that are bringing it up, that they're willing to begin that process.
I do know, though, at the government committee, when Rick goes and brings us back all the information, he goes to all these meetings, he talks to the commissioners. I mean, that has helped us a lot, and also Ken works very closely with Putnam County. So we get a lot more services out here than I think we have 10 years ago, just by the government committee being involved, Ken being really involved, and kind of fighting for us, as I think we're the second largest area of Putnam County.
Yeah.
I'm getting some nods in the back from the people.
Highest tax bracket for the county.
Highest tax bracket.
Per capita.
Okay, there we go. So we spend a lot of money, give a lot of money to Putnam County, but we've never embarked on that because we saw how fun the covenant vote change has been, and I can only imagine it's probably about 50 times harder than that. So,
Okay, we're gonna go back to Andrew. Number 22, Andrew.
good, give me a good one.
Following the election and annual meeting, the board will elect their 3 officers for 2024. If elected, is there a position you would be willing or want to take? Why, and what attributes do you possess to be successful in that position?
I suppose willing to take, yes, want to take. I'm not sure it'd be my first year on the board, so I may be better deferred to the more experienced board members to fulfill the leadership, but if I do get elected and then maybe year 3, I could look at fulfilling a role, because potentially I could be one of the more, because every 3 years it cycles. So by year 3, I could potentially be one of the more experienced, then I'd absolutely be willing to take whatever is needed for the community. I mean, on my committees at work, I've served as vice chair, stenographer, treasurer, so even going back to high school, I was in the good old Key Club, I was the treasurer for that. So I know this is a little bigger budget than the North Putnam Key Club, but I can use Excel, so. And as far as what qualities, like I said, I mean, I've served various leadership roles in my professional career, so I could transfer those skills to this one.
Well, the one thing about, Nina and AJ have been on the board for a while. You guys are newbies, and there's a learning curve, and so that's understandable what you're saying.
Right. I don't plan to knock the door down and make sweeping changes, so if you're looking for a candidate to do that, then I don't know.
Vote for me.
Yeah.
Vote for me, right. Thanks, Andrew. 1 for Linda. 4. Number 4. Oh, I think we've already talked about that.
We have.
Let's do another one.
You've got repeat questions.
Well, yeah.
19.
A lot of these questions are regurgitated from one of these meetings to the next meeting. Okay, here's one. Over the past few years, we've seen substantial improvements to the common properties and lake, i.e. a swimming pool, expanded marina, parking area, addition of boat slips, and continued and enhanced in dredging. Can you think of any other improvements to enhance our enjoyment of the lake or contribute financially to our community? Please be specific.
Again, I think it all goes back to what we've been talking about. Well, what I have been talking about is enhancing our community. And unfortunately, I'm going to use my sister as an example here. She's probably not going to like this. As you come into Heritage Lake, she had a tree fall on her house, and the tree stayed there forever and ever. To me, that's curb appeal. When you enter our lake, you want to see pretty. You want to see your yard's clean. So I went over and cleaned the tree up, and then her husband decided to cut brush and put it in his front yard. Now, me driving into the lake, that's what I see, and it's just like, no, we can't do this. Let's clean the yard up. It just goes back to, again, what's in your heart and what's on the outside leads to your inside. Clean, maintain, do what we ask. We're not asking you to pull an 8-inch weed. We're asking you to keep your property clean. We're asking you to make it forthcoming, beautiful, to make us look as a community, want to be part of this community and live in it. I think that we need to be stronger on that aspect of, not only getting the community involved, but enforcing our rules for the community.
Okay, thank you. Any questions out here? Keep asking. Come on, Tom, you gotta have a question.
15
15.
for AJ.
All right.
It's probably a finance question. In addition to the boat safety test, the Lake Committee has also worked with the board to enact a fine structure
Yep,
for
there we go.
infractions to the lake boarding rules. There are 3 ascending tiers of fines and loss of lake privileges commensurate with the infraction. What are your general thoughts on a fine and loss of lake privileges program to ensure compliance with the safety rules of the lake? Do you have any other suggestions?
I think that it's a good system. My general thought. I know the Lake Committee, as there's a lot of them in here, we're a huge part of that, coming up with the rules, coming up with the tiers, and then the board. We kind of went back and forth between the Lake Committee and the board. We had to be able to give the security staff, and this is the only way I can explain it, is some sort of teeth. They needed to have a way to enforce the rules instead of just going out there and just shaking their finger at people and being like, stop doing that. Because as we've all pointed out, there's a lot of boats out here, and there's only going to become more as the community gets bigger. Because unfortunately, the lake isn't getting any bigger. Even if we add 200 more houses, we're going to have the same size lake. So having the fine structure in place, it's not to make money for the POA. It's not to just be mean and kick people off the lake. It's for safety. If you're driving the wrong way on a busy day on the lake, you could really hurt somebody. If you don't understand the rules, you could hurt somebody. And I think that it's important for anyone who's utilizing the lake to know that. And that's why they take the boat test every year. And Rick does a fantastic job of getting it out there in conjunction with all the other people that help him behind the scenes. And I for one think it's a great thing. We don't hand out 500 fines and suspensions a year. I don't know, Ken. I mean, how many suspensions did we have last year?
Suspensions?
Yeah, of any kind.
6.
6 in a whole year? So it's not like we're doing it to just fundraise. And we're, like I said, we're not doing it to just kick people off the lake. It's just a safety matter. Rick's got some information.
We actually have a goal to write 10 or fewer per year.
Yeah. Like I said, this is not meant to, take anybody's fun away. We're just trying to do it to be safe. We want everybody to understand the rules. We want to understand why a rule is broken and what happened. And I don't really have any other suggestions, to be honest, because I think that every year the Lake Committee brings back changes as we see the lake being utilized and as boats change and as patterns change and things like that. And so we are constantly making tweaks and changes every year to the rules. We're constantly having security out there as much as possible, as many officers as Ken can find to pilot the boat. So I don't really think personally, I don't think there's many changes that need to be made, because we have a committee of people every year going over this year after year and making improvements and changes.
Okay, I'm gonna follow up with a question for all of you. Number 8, goes back to what AJ was just talking about. It says the various board-sponsored committees are often asked to make recommendations to the board on assorted topics. The board has the final say on these recommendations. What are your thoughts on this process? To what extent should the board be obligated to follow these recommendations after the committees have put their time and effort into developing their best proposals? I'll just open that up to all of you.
Well,
And did you hear that, Nina?
Yeah, I think she did.
Yes, I did.
I'll just,
I guess I'll be the first to answer. Sorry, AJ, I'm going to interrupt you since they already called on me. I don't feel like the board has a full 100% obligation to just blindly follow recommendations when a committee has put their time and effort into developing what they view as their best proposals. I mean, really, the old saying is key here that two eyes are better than one. And the more eyes that are on it and the more input that's on it, and you know, the lake committee receives input from part of the community, and then some of the board receives input from the community. Because to be honest, a lot of the people in the community think that the board does it all. And so they don't know to come to the lake committee when they have a concern. They come to the board, and you know, we filter it down through the lake committee. But I feel like this current board that we have has been very cohesive and has had a really good handshake relationship with the various committees. And when the lake committee or the A&E committee has sent new language to the board for approval, you know, we may go back and forth a little, but from my understanding, what was the final draft never changed the main intent or purpose of what the original proposal was. So I feel like we're doing a good job with that.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think just you have to assume good faith between both the committee and the board. I don't, like, if the committee has a suggestion, the board obviously would consider it, and all things being equal, I imagine they would follow through unless there was something glaringly bad. But even if they don't follow through with the committees, it's nothing vindictive. It's probably just the board has a broader view of things.
Okay. Anything else?
I have to agree. I think the committees that they have a group that's formed to find the expertise and have the advice. So I think the board probably leans more on the committees of doing all the structured work and trusting.
Well, I think I've asked this question at every meet the candidates we've ever had because we're so much involved with the lake committee rules, and it is a big process, and it's kind of nice to, you know, be confirmed by the board. All the work that's been done is being put out there. So anyway, want to draw a number? Who's next?
Two more questions.
Nina? Okay.
Yeah, Nina's next. Nina, you get number 12. Unless Jim says no.
It is anticipated that when 9 members of the board discuss issues or plans, there will be disagreement. It is, however, important to remember to agree to disagree and not let those differences of opinions develop into something more. At the end of the day, when the board reaches a decision on an issue, the board needs to speak to the community as one voice. The question: do you think this is important, and why? If you become a board member, will you remember this and adhere to this philosophy?
Well, I think this is definitely important, especially our current board has proven to be very cohesive. The truth is, we don't all get along. We don't all like each other. You're not going to see us all out together on Friday night. And I kind of like it that way because you don't want everyone to be in that same small little circle and we're making decisions for the greater mass. You know, as a board member, you tend to lose your anonymity. It's when I come to the board and we have a discussion, I am not bringing my own personal views, wants, needs, or desires as it relates to this community. That may be in the back of my mind, but what I'm bringing forward is what the community has touched base with me and conveyed to me and expressed what their views and desires are. And so as a board, I think we all come to that table with that in mind. And I don't feel that our current board, and I don't see any board going forward, that there would be any animosity. And having that cohesive one voice is very important, because that's the only thing that can help this community. If we are fractured and we have different voices for different neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods split up, then we've changed this community, down to its foundational core. And so as the board, we are varied. We're on the water, we're off the water, we're different tax brackets, we're different ages, we're families and people who've never had kids, and we're kind of all of the above. And it's important for us to also be that singular voice, not just for the community, but also to the community.
Okay, thanks. One more question for Andrew, and then since he was the last one to go,
14.
we'll see if it's a good question or not. Then we'll move to something else.
I think we kind of talked about that, right?
We've already talked about it.
See, I'll take this question.
Okay.
No, you can give me another one.
How about number 1?
30.
All right. So number 1.
There are varied opinions of the board members, their decisions, and how they interact with the community. What will you, as a board member, do to build community relations and positive perceptions of the Heritage Lake Board of Directors?
All right, I don't really do much social media, but my understanding is that seems to be fanning a lot of the flames, and I think the perception is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the perception is the board is just this faceless governance committee that just kind of does whatever they want and runs roughshod over the community, but that's, my understanding, isn't the reality. So I just like to kind of be, like I said, just put yourself out there. I mean, we're all neighbors at the end of the day. I believe all the board members live at the lake, correct? I mean, they at least own property here. So what we're doing for the lake, we're doing for everybody. I don't think anybody's on a power trip or anything like that. So again, just lead by example. Try to, like Linda said, help your neighbors if they can't clean up something themselves. Lend a hand, just kind of put yourself out there, which may come back to bite me, but I can always send stuff to voicemail.
Any other questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, I have one more question for all of you, just one generic question. There will be times when the board needs to discuss confidentiality issues pertaining to individual owners. This information may be detrimental to an owner if it became public. Will you commit to never discussing private matters outside the closed session, even though you may not agree with what was discussed? A simple yes or no will suffice.
Yes.
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 I think it's an important issue. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, would anybody say no to that, though?
Well, if they know better.
Or even just, I don't know, seems like common sense. I mean, let's go with yes.
So who wants to be number one to go for closing statements?
I was last to answer, so I guess I can go first here. And like I said, just to kind of reiterate, my main goal with running for the board is just keep this a great place to raise your kids. And then kind of going off the water stuff. I do a lot of stuff off the water out here. I know the lake's great, but when I first moved back here, the first thing I did was go down to the trails there at the conservation. So I've always been kind of not a tree hugging hippie, but always had respect for nature. And I think we really undervalue our trees out here. One of my big concerns with all the growth, which I don't know if he's still here, but it seems like they're just clear cutting every lot anymore, when I don't know at the board if we have any power to stop that, but I'd like to explore any options to just try to keep some of our old growth trees around here. Because those, I mean, you can't just go out and buy them, So one of my big things is just trying to keep the lake beautiful on and off the water.
I agree.
Yeah.
Linda?
I have to agree with him as well. As one of my main goals is to keep the lake beautiful and to educate. I think just in this short period of time that I've just started getting more involved, I've learned a lot, and I have a lot to learn. But I'm not afraid to learn. I'm not afraid. I'm a on-hands person more than I am a book person. I like to get involved personally and help. You know, I have neighbors that have been here since the 70s, the Mitchums, and they're 83, and to try to help them is almost impossible. They don't let you. But, you know, if we have a bad storm and they got a bunch of limbs down, my grandkids and I, we go out there and we help. We help to clean up. I just think our community is wonderful and beautiful, and I think our board does an amazing job. Even if I make the board or I don't make the board, I will still support our board because I think we're going in the right direction. I think you guys do listen to the community. And what is it, 9? 9 for how many residents that live out here? You know, it's a small board to handle a big community. Again, I love Heritage Lake, and this is probably where I'll retire. And hopefully my grandkids stick around and retire here as well.
Just a couple of things. I just want to continue all the work we've been doing to maintain what we have. Keep supporting Ken in the office, keep supporting the maintenance crews, the volunteerism that's out here, and continue to expand volunteerism. You know, really try to get the new people that come out here involved. Maybe try to get the people that maybe have not gotten involved before that have lived here a long time. Maybe, you know, going back out to them and seeing if there's any opportunities there. And I just want to see this community grow for the future. I'm happy to keep things the way they were and some of the other things, but also I think a lot of great opportunities have come from the growth, you know, putting in a restaurant out here. I think that's been a huge positive thing for the community. I know there's definitely people on both sides of the fence for every single issue we bring up, literally every single issue. But I think that we're trending in the right direction. I think we're doing things that are expanding. I think adding the concert series and adding all that stage equipment and all the different stuff we have down there has really added another level of fun and class and everything to the lake. All the different projects that we do. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody really even notices happen, but then they come out with a really great product. So I think just kind of being able to, you know, we just went through Christmas, right? You know, you've got like the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. So we've just got to notice all the different things. The things the way it were in the past, the way they are now, and the way they can be in the future. And I think that's something that we can keep building towards over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Okay. Nina?
Well, having served on the board for the last 3 years, I feel as though I've proven myself as being tuned in and engaged within the community. And then for anyone who's been to the meeting or reads the minutes in the printed form, they've seen my consistent attendance at the meetings and my active participation. I make it a priority in my life to make that time. I've also made it clear that, you know, my front door is always open. My number is listed in the phone book. It's available to the office. And, you know, I want to continue to see this community be better and grow better. And if that means that there's a place for me on the board of directors, continuing moving forward, I'm thrilled with that. Otherwise, I will continue to support this community through the committees and the other opportunities out here in order to serve my neighbors.
Okay. Devin, I want to thank all of you. This is a major commitment. I mean, it's a major commitment for somebody to want to be on our board. I know that sometimes it's not, it can be a thankless job, especially with certain people. But what the board does for us is just, it's incredible. And our board in the last few years has just really stepped up. So by you guys making this commitment, we really appreciate it. As a whole group, we appreciate the fact you want to do this. Also, I want to thank specifically Ken and Clint and Rick for all their help in putting this together. It doesn't work with one person. And I want to thank all of you for showing up. So if that's okay, we're done, and we appreciate you coming.
Bye, Nina.